official session, Reaching the Sustainable Development Goals and Transforming Towards a Social Economy. In-depth insights, lessons learned, and barriers for social entrepreneurship across Europe. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you with us today. We have over 20 speakers joining from more than 25 organizations in our session today. And we're very keen to share some of the lessons we've learned from a study and a project that we want to share with you. The European Social Enterprise Monitor, the state of social enterprise in Europe. This is a project that was started a little over 1.5 years ago. And today is the first report and deliverable that's going to be launched officially in the session later. So a remarkable moment for all of those who worked, and we're very happy that you're joining us and we can share some of the insights with you. So the objectives for the session of today is share with you the in-depth insights and the lessons learned and the barriers for social entrepreneurs. It's also to announce and celebrate the official launch of the European Social Enterprise Monitor and to get you excited about the monitor that we present to you, and also hopefully to get your enthusiasm to sign up to join us. The next survey and project is launching in September, or to join us as a partner. And I will tell you a little bit more of what it entails. So the agenda for today is an introduction into the European Social Enterprise Monitor Initiative. We have words from our founding partners and sponsors, a presentation of the ASM results, and also, of course, as I said, official celebration moment, a keynote panel with some of the most esteemed academic leaders and researchers in this topic of social enterprise. And we will as well have breakout sessions with European and national social enterprise monitor teams. So an introduction into the European Social Enterprise Monitor. This is an initiative to address the lack of data on social enterprise, to inform decision makers in politics, in government, civil society, and the economy on the status of social enterprise and also the challenges and needs, so we can support the sector to grow and have an impact on creating a more just and green society. It's based on initiatives that already take place for over 14 years, amongst others in Germany, with Cent on board, who will speak later with you as well, Social Enterprise UK, who's also with us today, and the Netherlands. So we're building on the shoulders of those who came before us and have made a European initiative to be able to benchmark the data and make comparisons across Europe. So the impact is data for social entrepreneurship, for researchers and decision makers. It's also for EU policies and funding, country policies, and also country partners who are joining us of the national bodies of social enterprise, that they're more aware of each other's context and policies and can learn from each other to better support the social entrepreneurs who they are representing in their country. Furthermore, a more effective social finance and social enterprises is believed to accelerate that we can reach the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. We're very pleased as well that our project receives the support of the European Commission, with European Commissioner Nicholas Schmit. And I'm just checking in if people can see the slide from European Commissioner Schmit, because with me it's actually stuck. Okay, good. So we're very happy with an easy operating grant for Euclid Network to support this project, which would not have been possible without the European Commission, and also the support of European Commissioner Nicholas Schmit on this project and the importance of social enterprise data. The first year, so our pilot project has been going on in 8 countries: Croatia, Denmark, Estonia, Germany, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. And of course, we hope to grow the partners, both national bodies for social enterprise and also our research partners, the universities, in the next years to come. So if we look at our founding partners and sponsors, we're very pleased to also have on board Bertelsmann Stiftung, Impact City, SAP, the COVID Response Alliance for Social Entrepreneurs, and the Schwab Foundation. And our founding partners and sponsors are here with you. You will hear from them a little bit later on. And without them, this would not have been possible. So a large appreciation to you. And you can as well see here all the country partners and research partners that have been part of this project. So now comes the hopefully interesting part of this session, the presentation of the results. So if you want to benchmark social enterprise data across different countries, of course, the first question that you're going to ask is, what's your social enterprise definition? I think we have had many days and weeks even to think about this topic. So the European Social Enterprise Monitor is based on the 3 dimensions of social enterprise as presented by the European Commission: the social dimension, the governance dimension, the entrepreneurial dimension. But in essence, the main element that we've decided on, because each of the countries have their own social enterprise definition, is to clean the data and the research results we have from the European Social Enterprise Monitor by the question if social impact was more important or equally important to financial interests. And then if the social impact was more important, this would be a social enterprise. If we look at that, the European Social Enterprise Monitor, we've had 1,990 social entrepreneurs start the survey. We unfortunately lost a couple of hundred of them because their country was not there. So of course, if we expand the countries, we hope they can finish the survey. Now we only had 8 countries. For the social enterprise definition, everyone who started the survey, only 91 of those across all of the participants did not fit our criteria, and their financial interests were more important than their social impact. So at the end, we arrived with a final clean data set of 930 social enterprises in the first year, and the highest number came from Germany, Sweden, and Spain. And we have in all the different reports that will be accessible as well from today onwards on the site we'll share with you later. You can see specifically which of the countries have the most respondents and also which of the provinces and regions. So we can really as well create, which Germany, for example, did, specific like Bundesland reports or provincial reports, depending on the country where you are and how that's divided. So this can really also for municipalities give interesting information. So the profile of social enterprises that we found, the respondents for our report, social enterprises are young. 7 out of 10 of our respondents actually were founded in the past 10 years. The following organizations, like the majority was actually in the implementation and growth stage, on average 1 out of 3. The social enterprise legal status, in total more than 65 different legal forms were used by ASAM social enterprises across 8 countries. And the legal status, 63% actually thought that it would have value to have a legal status in their country. So social enterprises are diverse and inclusive. If we look at the number of females in the social enterprises who responded, 59% of board members are females. And also if we look at the staff that are with ASAM social enterprises, 4 out of 10 actually employ like individuals who are disabled. And also you see that the variety also in ethnic minorities is quite high. And this is compared to traditional enterprise or conventional enterprises, quite high numbers as well. Social enterprises also are focused on the SDGs. And apologies, my presentation is locking again. Okay, I'm going to do this by head on the data because I can actually not see my screen here. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the top SDGs that were supported are health and well-being and reduced inequalities. So SDG 3 and 10. If we look at the social enterprises geographical reach, ESM social enterprises operate most frequently at the local authority or city level. Overall, across the European data set, it's 44%, and it's followed by the national level of 41% and their own neighborhood and community level of 33%. In our European report and also in the national country report, you'll see then as well the differences. So in some countries, there's more focus on the national level, in some more at the neighborhood and community level, and some on the local authority and city level. So it's very interesting to see how that differs in the different countries. If we look at beneficiaries, my sincere apologies, this one is also not loading. The largest percentage by head, so now I'm being really tested, was youth and children across the different ASM social enterprises who are supported. The unemployed as well in the top 3, and as well I'm really sorry. This one is a little bit difficult to do by head. I'm just seeing if I can refresh the screen. Okay, yes. So for which specific groups of individuals do you provide services or benefits? As said, children and young individuals, 21%. Oh, I see in the chat as well, people try to help me. Thanks so much. Women and girls, 19%, and the long-term unemployed, 17%. So an important topic as well for European social enterprises is the topic of social procurement, or bisocial, as we often say as national bodies of social enterprise, as well based on the pioneering work of Social Enterprise UK on the campaign. Social enterprises, they show how a sustainable and fair type of procurement can succeed. You see that they take care themselves as good role models of social responsibility. It's most important. Environmental responsibility is a second, and costs are coming in as a third for decision-making on the procurement. Social enterprises are impact-oriented as well. 6 out of 10 regularly measure the impact, and you see that across different countries that changes actually. Spain is the country which across ASM social enterprises actually employs the most regular and the most effective impact measurement. It's also, when we look at the social enterprises, that most of the Spanish social enterprises are founded earlier in comparison to the other countries. And this also means they're in a later development stage. So it seems an impact as well on the development stage when impact measurement starts with social enterprises. Yeah, social enterprises in times of COVID. So if we look at the social enterprises in our study, we see that, yes, they had, of course, like also all enterprises, difficulties with the containment measures and the lockdowns presented during the pandemic. overall, the resilient mindset of social entrepreneurs also meant that these social entrepreneurs were directly looking for opportunities. So we see a lot of new social enterprises being founded and also products and services developed. And also 29% of Asian social enterprise indicated they were able to help others during the COVID-19 crisis. So I would like to give the word to my colleague, Pablo Hoffmann, to also present the results, the further results of our study.
Yes, thank you, Wieteke. I hope it works a little bit more smoothly with my slides now, but it's really nice to see the collaborative spirit in our social economy in Europe when the audience helps out the speakers in the chat when we can't see what's going on the slides. Yes, I will be talking about the finance-related data in our next slide, so it's going to be a little bit more heavy on the numbers. The finance aspects are actually the biggest barrier to success for the ESEM social enterprises we found. I'm going to speak a little bit more about the barriers on a later slide in detail, but for now, I can just tell you that the top 3 financing sources the ESEM social enterprises used were actually through public financing, financing through their own savings, or financing through their own cash flow. Business angels, impact investors, and venture capital played a rather subordinate role in financing the ESEM social enterprises, especially when compared to the conventional for-profit startup world. So the question now is, can maybe EU funding help our ESEM social enterprises out? It kind of depends on which country you are located in. So overall, 3 out of 10 of the ESEM social enterprises have applied for EU funding in the past, whereas 63%, a whopping 63%, I would say, have never applied to EU funding so far. If they applied, then they mostly applied to the European Social Fund, the Erasmus Plus program, or the Horizon 2020 program. And but this kind of varies. Like, for example, in Croatia and Portugal, every second social enterprise has applied to EU funding in the past, where in Germany it's only 21%, Sweden 23%, and in Denmark only 24% ever applied to EU funding. And one of the interesting reasons they gave why they haven't applied to EU funding is that for some of them it's too complex or too time-consuming to apply. It's really not worth it. But then also a lot of them said that they were not aware of the opportunity, especially among our German participants. We heard this a lot. And that's good information for us and for policymakers to make this option a little bit more visible. Coming to the income sources, the primary income sources for the ESEM social enterprises are grants from the government, volunteering by private persons, but also trading with consumers and trading with profit-oriented companies. Again, it's interesting to look at the differences across countries because, for example, in Germany, the main income source for social enterprises is trading with profit-oriented companies, whereas in Europe overall, it's only on spot 3. And we see here in our graph that we actually divided them up into trading activities and non-trading activities. We did this because social enterprises are often organized in hybrid form. That means they both generate income through the sales of products and services. That is the trading income part, as well as through donations or also subsidies, which is then the non-trading income part. In total, 57% of all participants across Europe use hybrid sources of income, and 19% exclusively rely on non-trading income, and 24% exclusively rely on trading income. So this is important because this displays the heterogeneity, this diversity among the social enterprises across Europe, when this policymakers have to take into account when creating new financing instruments for them. Just briefly about the revenues. Revenues are relatively diverse among participants. We had almost 50% of them had revenues of more than 100,000 euros in the last 12 months. But the largest group was actually with 36%, the largest bracket had only revenues of up to 50,000 euros in the last 12 months. Here, the young average age that Wieteke already mentioned in the beginning and the early development stage that most social enterprises are in heavily factors in to this revenue statistic. Then one slide about the profits. Profits is an interesting topic always for social enterprises because they differ from conventional enterprises in that making a profit is not the primary goal of the organization, as Wieteke also explained in the definition in the beginning, and that they're actually primarily concerned with achieving like social and environmental goals. So a lot of times profit is rather a means than an end, like it's the means to increase the impact, the social and ecological impact of the organization. But still, it's interesting to see how profit, loss, and break even evenly splits somewhere around 27 to 30%. So actually 27% of all ESEM social enterprises recorded a loss in the last year. And well, there are two like coexisting reasons and conditions why this happened, why this is the case. On the one hand, obviously we had the pandemic situation and the dire economic conditions that made it a lot more difficult to gain a profit in the last year. But then also, once again, we have a lot of young organizations in our survey in early development stages, in which profits are very seldom made. Coming to the topic of innovation, we all appreciate social enterprise because they develop and test these innovative ideas that then in the end result in solutions for problems in our society. And we consider them to be innovative, and our data shows proof that they actually are. So because when asked in order to assess the innovative strength, we actually asked them to indicate whether in which area of the organization they offered a market novelty when they were founded. 90% gave at least one area where they were innovative at the time they were founded, mainly in the area of products and services, and in the business model, and also in the impact model. Then coming to the next slide. This is the slide about here we see the most important barriers to the social enterprises across the 8 ESEM countries. I already mentioned on my first slide that financing is a very big barrier. We see here the first 3 out of the 5 biggest barriers are all finance related. There's, for one thing, the lack of options to finance the organization once it has already been started. And a lot of participants also complained about too complex public financing, and both barriers could technically be solved if there was more patient capital around, like, for example, through impact investing. But unfortunately, there's also a lack of patient capital, as we see in our third barrier. So this is also not available, or this can also not solve the problem currently for the ESEM social enterprises. And there are also barriers concerned with non-financial support. For example, the lack of public support schemes. We talk about this a lot in Germany at CENT, that there's a strong emphasis on promoting technological innovation in Germany, whereas social innovations have only limited resources at their disposal. And this is there are some nice initiatives that we see across Europe. For example, the Portugal Social Innovation Program initiated by the government, also the Social Economy Berlin project here in Germany, which is more on the state level, that show as positive examples of public funding programs by public policymakers. Then the last one is the weak lobby for social entrepreneurship. In Germany, it was actually by far the largest barrier, and this was this basically means that the sectors still perceived that the politicians still not grant the necessary attention from politicians. And in 2020, this was particularly painstakingly actually clear when a lot of the social enterprises fell through the grid, when the emergency loans came in from the government at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now coming to our last slide, the political support. Looking at the barriers, especially looking at weak lobby for social entrepreneurship as being one of the biggest barriers, it becomes obvious or logical that political support is not perceived to be very high across the 8 ESEM countries. In total, 7 out of 10 of the ESEM social enterprises are dissatisfied with the political with the political support for social entrepreneurship in their country. And 7 out of 10 actually rated as non-existent, very low, or low. This again varies a little bit across countries. In Portugal, maybe also because of the program that the Portuguese government initiated that I just mentioned on the last slide, maybe helped that they don't perceive political support to be as bad as they do in Germany, where actually up to over 80% of the participants rate the political support as low, no support, or very low support. So in total, we can see there's still be lots of room for improvement for policymakers to promote social entrepreneurship across the ESEM countries. And yeah, we hope that our report shines a light on this fact and helps to promote better policies for social entrepreneurship across Europe in the future. And this was my part, and now I hand back the mic to my wonderful colleague, Wieteke.
Thanks, Pablo, for sharing those insights. So as you can imagine, Pablo and I and the whole team had a really hard time to take out some of the nuggets and the gems out of our European Social Enterprise Monitor and all of the national reports. So you've seen in the chat already a link to our Knowledge Center page where everything is live. You can see the European report, national reports that are already there, and also the forthcoming reports. So we wish you also really great reading of more insights and more in-depth kind of knowledge on what comes across from all those social entrepreneurs that we're really appreciative of that have joined the ASEM. 71% of the 930 people who joined actually want to participate again next year. So our survey launches in September. So we have a good group of committed influencers that are gonna provide the data for policymaking and funding programs for the future. So thank you for this. And I would now like to close the presentation and actually see if I can call on stage Dr. Stefan Empter of the Bertelsmann Stiftung. So let's see. Yes, here we are. Stefan, fantastic. I can see you. I hope the audience sees you as well. Thanks for joining us while you're traveling. And we're, of course, very appreciative of well, your knowledge, also your writings that we used in the report as well to refer to. But also then, of course, for Bertelsmann Stiftung being a founding partner and sponsor of the ASEM. So my question is to you, of course, yeah, why would Bertelsmann Stiftung support this initiative? Why do you think it's important?
Well, Wieteke, thank you very much. My organization and myself personally, I'm very pleased that the first European Social Enterprise Monitor is presented today by Euclid Network and will be discussed within the framework of this high-profile European Social Economy Summit. Given the massive ecological and social and political challenges facing the world, social entrepreneurs play a key role, not only in finding localized solutions to seemingly intractable problems, but also showing established economic and political actors the importance of creativity and innovation. As they are already providing considerable stimuli for social innovation and positive social change in many areas of our life, also regarding the Agenda 2030 and its Sustainable Development Goals, social entrepreneurship is gaining increasing acknowledgement and quantitative and qualitative relevance in politics, business, and civil society all over Europe. In this sense, the European Social Enterprise Monitor 2021 is a real milestone to close the current gap on social enterprise data to inform decision makers in government, civil society, and in economy. And it's very much to be hoped, as you told us, that many more European countries will be included in future editions of this report. Last but not least, the European Social Enterprise Monitor can provide role models and impulses for social enterprises and for policymakers at national and European level, thus giving them the opportunity to learn from each other in the best sense of the word. And that is one reason why the Bertelsmann Foundation has helped to enable this very important report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefan. That's really nice. And I also very much appreciate your support and advice as well. Coos from Impact City, I see you're also already here.
Yes, thank you, Wieteke. And also from my side, yeah, we warmly welcome the European Social Enterprise Monitor. And congratulations to the whole team with this launch. Yeah, The Hague Impact City is dedicated to contribute to the European social economy and to these kind of joint efforts. that seek to strengthen the impact ecosystem in Europe. And we try to collaborate as a city with other leading cities and partners like Euclid Network to create this European social economy. So therefore, it's really crucial that there is now a monitor. To learn from the social entrepreneurs for policymakers, because I'm working for the municipality of The Hague, so I'm a policymaker. So it's really important for us to understand which instruments and support mechanisms are working and which ones are not working, and to change that and really to work with what we call evidence-based policy making. And this is definitely a milestone, because now we can, this time the Netherlands is not included, but already we can learn from, Portugal was mentioned, and Germany, and all the others that are in there now. And we want to learn from each other and to see what works the best for those social entrepreneurs. So we congratulate you and the rest of the team, and I'm looking forward to the future and to make it a bigger enterprise monitor with more countries included.
Thanks, Coos. And of course, we're a long-time strategic partner, Euclid Network in Impact City. Thank you as well for hosting us in The Hague. Alexandra, yes, so thanks for joining as well, Alexandra van der Ploeg. She's Global Head of Corporate Social Responsibility at SAP, and also a main influencer on setting up the social enterprise sector and supporting that. So Alexandra, thanks for being with us today.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Wieteke. It's so exciting to see the launch of the monitor. We've been a strong supporter of the German version of the monitor for a few years. So we're actually incredibly happy to see the expansion of the monitor across more European countries. One of the reasons why SAP has decided to put so much support into this is that we have been investing in the social enterprise sector quite significantly in the last 10 years. And frankly, we've been primarily doing that by building networks and partnerships and ecosystems next to sort of building capacity for individual social enterprises. But most recently, in the last year and a half, we started seeing that an incredible area of potential, not just for us as a company, but for the social enterprise sector is, Wieteke, what you guys have seen already in the Minute Monitor as well, social procurement and buy social. So last year we made a new commitment at SAP called 5+5 by 25, and it basically means that we want to divert 5% of our procurement spend towards social enterprises and 5% towards diverse suppliers by the end of 2025. And we're not the only private sector player that is doing that. You will see a lot of companies starting to diversify their supply chains. And we believe that social enterprises have a unique opportunity to position themselves to access that market and to increase their revenues, and through that accelerate the impact that they can achieve in the market. The monitor is so incredibly important because it not just gives us transparency into what is happening in the market, but it provides us with invaluable data and information about the needs of the social enterprises. Because I think sometimes what is hard is to understand what is actually the best kind of support that provides the highest value to a social enterprise. And through projects like the Monitor, you get that kind of visibility and transparency into what the actual needs are and where you can, in private sector terms, where you can achieve the highest bang for buck. But for social enterprise, we believe it is also incredibly important to contribute and to participate because it gives them a voice. And for all of us together, it gives us an opportunity to actually work together and to figure out how do we need to collaborate together across the sectors to provide the best kind of support that is needed to advance and accelerate the social enterprise sector. So we welcome the launch of the Monitor. And we just want to appeal to everybody to make the monitor bigger as of 2021 and beyond, to include as many countries as possible. SAP will definitely be there. We will support you. And we will be happy to sit here maybe in a year's time and we will have 20 countries that we can represent. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Back to you, Wieteke.
It would be. Thanks so much, Alexander, for your support and also your amazing work in this sector already for a long time, I would say. Yes, and thanks for being with us on this long-term path. 20 countries, we could, right? We could potentially. Yes, Carolien de Bruijn is also here. Thanks, Carolien, for joining. Carolien is head of the COVID Response Alliance for Social Entrepreneurs of the World Economic Forum. And we're very happy that she's here because actually she brought a lot of us together, but also connecting more and more social enterprise support organizations. I think it's over 86 now. And close to 100,000 social entrepreneurs, and really, making all the intermediaries that support social enterprises to work together and to be more focused on doing projects together instead of duplicative work. So Carolien is a driving force for that agenda, and she's doing a fantastic job. So Carolien, the word is to you. I think you need to unmute yourself. It's on the left. You need to push, and then there's a green button coming up. Maybe you return later. You see if you can make it work. And then we go to the celebratory moment with the European Commission. We have Dana Verbal here. I'm going to get one thing. 1 second. Good. So unfortunately, we're not all here together in a room with over 100 participants. And we could just do this together. I have here a bottle of champagne, 2 champagne glasses. I'm alone in COVID times. This is the way it is. But I would at least like to take this moment before we give the word to the European Commission, who is the initial founding partner and sponsor of this initiative, to just say we're live. Go to the Knowledge Center and Euclid Network, read the reports, give us feedback on what you think, what we should do in future. And yes, we're live. It's very difficult to celebrate this virtually. We don't have balloons here like we have in Zoom. So I think thanks everyone for being here, and a big applause to everyone who worked on this very, very hard, specifically the last week to get this all ready. So yeah, congratulations to everyone. Thanks. Dana, over to you. I think we just lost Dana. She was here 1 second before.
She made like a small gesture earlier, just like, give me just 1 second. Maybe she will come back in a moment.
And Carolien, did you?
Can you see my messages or no?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
You can hear me. That's incredible. Thanks so much. So I was just gonna say, we just had the most important moment. So I don't want to take any attention away from the Herculean effort that you've all been going through as a team. From the COVID Response Alliance for Social Entrepreneurs, I guess the last, I would mostly just flag our realization over the last year or so that really, as a community of social entrepreneurs and social enterprise supporters, we have a lot to bring to both the recovery and inclusive recovery. as to pushing the mainstream private sector and our society at large to be believing in change and pushing for change. We jointly need to bounce back better, and for that we need data, as you've all been reinforcing, already in your previous comments. And so we're delighted that there's already such a huge scaled effort for gathering social enterprise insights and voices. And our dream with the forum and with the Alliance, and definitely also with the ASEM initiative in mind, would be not to go to 20 countries, but to really make this a global effort and be able to say, not too long, like we can both help these entrepreneurs, and within the Alliance we're now collectively representing about 100,000, we think, entrepreneurs across our 86 members. And if we can only bring their voices to the fore and also know from them what they need to be scaling their efforts, what they need to become part of corporate supply chains, only then can we truly be creating that two-way street and that leveraged set of initiatives, those informed data-driven policies, and ultimately an enabling infrastructure to ultimately the new world we need to see for ourselves, but also definitely for next generations. And so I'd say, Wieteke and team, thank you so much for all that you've been doing already to allow us to hopefully hit the ground running with the work that we're doing with the Alliance. Also thanking SAP, also Alexandra on the phone, and the wider Euclid network for their leadership in all of this so far. And we're looking forward to pushing on that together with you in the time ahead.
Thanks so much, Carolien. Yes, I'm going to give the floor now to one of my favorite colleagues, I would say. He's working at another organization, but sometimes it feels like we're just the same organization, with Michael Wunsch and Pablo Hoffmann from CENT, who are co-initiators of this project with us. And they have already done the monitor for 3 years before building this European effort. So Michael Wunsch, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. But I see that Dana is back. Would you like to give Dana a quick?
Dana, are you back?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I saw you were celebrating and I ran to pick up my balloon.
Oh.
Congratulations for this monitor. And then I clicked on my camera instead of my microphone, and yeah, but I'm here now. So yeah, I would like to join everyone in congratulating Euclid for this important piece of work that I haven't actually read yet. So I'm super curious to go through it. It's one of the most useful deliverables, I think, of your grant agreement with the European Commission, or at least one that will be used immediately, I think, because as you know, we are now in the process of preparing this action plan for the social economy, and we are really in desperate need of data and evidence. And I can say that data is extremely important for a policymaker, and this is why it's quite frustrating to be a policymaker in the area of social entrepreneurship, because it's a very recent phenomenon and we don't have data. We have a lot of anecdotes, and anecdotes are useful, but sometimes we have a bit the challenge of figuring out how representatives are these anecdotes, how do we filter them, because especially as a policymaker at EU level, you are bombarded with information, and sometimes this information comes from lobby groups, and it's quite difficult to see through all of this what is the reality. So this is why it will be very, very useful and important to us. And you know, we've already made an effort in the previous years to map social enterprises and their ecosystems. And the Commission published some country reports for all the countries, but in that mapping, we focused very much on social enterprises as part of an ecosystem. So we looked at the different elements of the ecosystem, but we didn't really provide details about in going in depth about the needs and the strengths and different qualitative information you could gather about social enterprises. So I think from our point of view, if it would be great if sometimes in the future you would not only end up mapping all the countries, but also kind of putting together these different pieces of literature and data that we have so far to paint a very comprehensive picture. So from our point of view, we really hope that you will be able to pursue this project further. And I think one important added value that we didn't have so far is the fact that you are planning to do this on a permanent basis and to monitor it through the years. So that will provide with very up-to-date information, which we are missing now. So congrats again. And
yes, thanks, Dana, as well for your support, and of course your head of unit and branch, and for, of course, the European Commissioner for his personal support, and as well the forward for our European Social Enterprise Monitor. Thanks so much for that.
Thank you.
Yes, we have had the celebration moment. Now we go to the smart people who are here with us on the call. We have several of our professors with us who are really crucial as well in this effort, as they serve as an academic research board. They advise us and they support us from their, of course, immense experience that they have and knowledge on this topic. So, Michael, I'll give it back to you to open the panel.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Wieteke. And yay, celebrations. So, yeah, I am here on the panel with some of my esteemed colleagues, actually taking up what Dana just said, that we are in desperate need for data. And we want to delve a little bit further into the data, look at what we've got for a couple of minutes. Joining me here on stage is Johanna Mair. She's professor at the Hertie School, where she's researched social entrepreneurship for many, many years. She's also the academic editor of the Stanford Social Innovation Review, probably one of the most important publications in our field. And of course, she is part of the ESCM Research Board. Hello, Johanna.
Hello, everyone.
Then we have Lina Palmer. She is the impact lead at the Forum for Social Innovation Sweden, and she is in charge of the Swedish Social Enterprise Monitor. Hello, Lina.
Hello, everyone.
And then I'm also being joined by Matthias Raith, who holds the chair of entrepreneurship at the Otto von Guericke University in Magdeburg here in Germany. He is the German national representative of the past chair of the strategic interest group entrepreneurship of the European Academy of Management. And he is also part of the research board, both for the ESCM and the German Social Enterprise Monitor. Hello, Matthias.
Hi.
And you've already heard from Wieteke. She is also here joining us. Wieteke Dupain is Head of Knowledge, Research and Development at Euclid Network, and she is in charge of the ESCM as the project manager. Hello, Wieteke, back to you. Yes, and I'm Michael Wunsch. I'm one of the co-founders of the Social Enterprise Network Germany and the initiator of the German Social Enterprise Monitor. So let's see some interesting facts. What does the ESCM, the European Social Enterprise Monitor, give us? First to you, Lina. You've been doing the Swedish Social Enterprise Monitor for the first time this year. what are some interesting facts that you learned from your endeavor? What was surprising to you?
Yeah, I mean, I must say this has been a wonderful experience to do this in partnership with all the other colleagues around the SM group. But I would say that, I mean, one very interesting finding was really like how the social enterprises in Sweden were impacted by the pandemic. What were the challenges they faced, but also how they contributed with new solutions and helped out in the crisis. So I think it really showed the potential that is in this group of social enterprises and their ability to reach vulnerable groups in innovative ways. Then I would say my second key takeaway would be how these responses reinstates the validity and the importance of key areas that actually are part of Sweden's national strategy for social enterprise and social innovation. It is a strategy that has been in place since 2018 and has 5 kind of key focus areas. And they are the customer side of developing the market and business opportunities for social entrepreneurship. So really, for example, public sector's procurement ability as a good customer and partner to the social enterprises. We also have the areas of skills and competences of the social enterprises themselves and their support agents, financing aspects, impact measurement, and also kind of developing new knowledge and visibility and meeting arenas across sectors around social entrepreneurship and social innovation. And I think all the challenges that the Swedish social enterprises give us in the SM Monitor, it really matches these areas really well. So it's still very relevant for the Swedish context. Then I also take away that a majority of the Swedish social enterprises that actually responded to the survey are the work integration social enterprises. I mean, we had a very wide approach of the monitor as such, but this is really the dominant group of entrepreneurs that in Sweden associate as social enterprises and give us. And so I think, why is that the case? I think that is a key question that we will take with us and for Sweden. Kind of a debate that has started how you associate. So I think, and then it's really to see very few of them, only 15% or so are members of a support network or part of an accelerator incubator. So I think it really puts the spotlight on the potential of further developing the role of intermediaries in the Swedish ecosystem for social entrepreneurship and social innovation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lina. That's very, very interesting, especially because you can compare what the strategy is and how much it has been already fulfilled. To the audience, a quick shout out. You will have the option to join breakout sessions just after the panel. Ambra just posted some things on how to get this done. Please add a number for the breakout session that you want to join in front of your name, and we will automatically then get you into that breakout session. So please read the comment in the chat and see for yourself which session you want to join in just a few minutes. Also, if you have any questions to the panel, we will have a short time to do this. So please ask your questions in the chat, and then we will take that up. Same question as I had for Lina. Matthias, we have already worked together on 3 monitors for the last couple of years here in Germany, looking at this German social entrepreneurship ecosystem. And what are the most, as a researcher, what are the most astonishing facts for you concerning social entrepreneurship?
I don't know if the word astonishing is appropriate. I think overwhelmed is being in entrepreneurship research. We know how difficult it is to get appropriate data, how long it takes to do this. And I remember just a few years ago when the two of us started talking about, wouldn't it be good to understand more about social entrepreneurship in Germany and initiate a monitor? And then teaming up with Sen, seeing how this was put into practice just, I think, a year later. And then the numbers ever since, you said we've been doing this 3 times, have doubled each year. So when we started talking about cautiously, couldn't we take this to a more international level? Maybe we could get 2 other countries to actually join this initiative. And then to see that in the first round, we have 8 European countries joining in on this. So we have an incredible momentum going right now. If this continues and we get the numbers to double, and we get the countries to double each year, this is going to be quite spectacular. So I think the overwhelming thing is getting this data and being able to work with it, because data is something which is going to be very important. And what we've seen right now is how the answers to the many different questions that we've been addressing, how they vary. But we have to understand behind these answers, there's a multitude of firms. So each firm is now characterized by a whole profile of answers. And this has not been visible yet. So now through the firms, we can actually understand how the answers are related to each other. This is something which we haven't looked at yet. So we can actually look at what barriers are related to what types of firms. We have enough information to understand, for instance, a lot about the business models of these different firms. And we can actually see classes of business models among the social enterprises in Europe. And we can see some, they're not evenly distributed. Some enterprises are very popular. Some types of business are very popular. Others are popular, but are not that common. For instance, Lina mentioned work integration social enterprises. They're very popular, but they're not very frequent. So most of the social enterprises, for instance, we see in Germany, are not work integration social enterprises. They're of other types. The question is, are the other types just easier to implement, or are they better? So we can actually now compare performance of different types of business models. And this is something which for researchers is spectacular. Most social enterprise and entrepreneurship research has, or a lot has been done qualitatively, where you basically work your way through individual ventures trying to understand them. Now we have quantitative data that we can actually look at the big picture. And I think this is going to be spectacular for policy, for research, and for practice, for facilitation of enterprises.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree that now that we can actually look at different clusters of firms, that we can cater them more specifically. Johanna, you have been doing a lot of research on social entrepreneurship the last couple of decades. And of course, you've seen a lot of interesting stuff when it comes to social entrepreneurship. What were some facts that caught your attention?
Well, thank you first for revealing my age, Micha. No, but seriously, I first want to really take a moment to congratulate Wieteke and all of you, Pablo, you and the whole team. It was amazing what you actually did this last year, and it was a pleasure to be part of this journey. So I'm supposed to talk a little bit what came out of the European Monitor, and I can say that because I was in touch with Wieteke on 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and therefore have seen a little bit of what you saw before, just to give you an idea what the work that was involved. But second, I want, before I get into what came out and what caught my interest, I want to also take a moment and pick on Dana's point. Dana, everyone mentioned the importance of data, also obviously from a research perspective, Matthias did that. But I also want to mention that this is a project that doesn't come from heaven, right? What I really, really appreciate is that it builds on efforts that the European Commission has supported over the last 20 years, not 20 years, but 10 years at least, 15 years, and most explicitly also on the instrument that we use here. I'm just so delighted that also the work that we have done in Sepphoris and Selusi has found a way into this, so that we build up knowledge. We don't reinvent the wheel. We just also need to be a little bit more humble and recognize recognize that, not so much for recognition, but for allowing people to see how we build work. So I think it's really important. And the same thing is like, let's treat the data respectfully with what it is and what we capture. It's really fantastic that from the beginning, we say huge response rate in Germany, 43% less of a response rate in other countries. This will be important as we every year are going to be collecting that. And it tells us a lot. I'm a social scientist. I look at patterns and try to understand what do they tell me. Obviously, the 43% response rate from Germany reflects on also the amazing work of CENT and trying to start the first lobby association for social enterprises in Germany. So that is one thing that we also can carry with me. But in terms of the overall picture, what do we see across different countries in Europe? Well, it's 7 out of 10 have been founded the last 10 years. So it's a younger generation of social economy organization. Doesn't mean that don't exist older ones. We just captured the younger ones. They also have relatively small budgets. They have ambition. 90% want to scale. They are innovative. And the nice thing is that 90% innovate really around the products and services that they are doing. So I think we need to keep in mind that this is a population, a new generation of social enterprises. There might be older ones, and we have data on the more established one. But there's a huge potential also here that European Commission and each country needs to look at. The second thing that caught my attention, although they are young, their reach is very diversified. So more than 40% focus locally, which is important because we need to get the local authorities, municipalities also be much more involved in shaping and supporting social enterprises. 40% are at the national level, and that was really surprising. 20%, although they are relatively young, already are working across different European countries. And I think that's also something that we have to trace and track back as something like what also then researcher or everyone can actually do. The final point that I want to make is about legal form, and Wieteke in her remarks already mentioned it, that the large number of social enterprises actually would support that. Let's create a legal form. To be honest, as a social science, that's not surprising, because if you ask them, would you like a legal form? Of course, we want to like a legal form. So that's one piece of information, right? But what is hiding behind the data that you have already analyzed is we have 65 plus different legal forms in Europe. So, hey, this is really calling out for more systematic analysis. What can be homogenized? What needs to be homogenized if we are talking about the action plan for the European Union going forward? I stop here. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I'm really excited about this. And I see lots of patterns that are interesting for policymakers and everyone.
Thank you, Johanna. Yes, absolutely. So there is so much data that we can actually use to inform policy. And Wieteke, Euclid Network on the European level is doing exactly that, among other things. And what are the obstacles that you see ahead when you look at the data? What are things that need to be done now on a European level?
Yes, Misha. And if we look at the data, I think for the EU action plan for the social economy, which is also one of the aims that we contribute to, I think it's interesting to see that our results are also supportive already to some of the analysis that they have made themselves. So it's really nice that the data supports already the fact that social enterprises really face critical barriers in accessing finance. And the interesting part that we see is 80% of our ASM social enterprises see this as a critical barrier. And they indicate which ones are then specifically the ones that impact them most, because we ask them, like, what is really impeding your business for success versus it's impacting you, it's a barrier, but it's bodily impacting you. So another important one, and an interesting one also, of course, with the increasing interest of corporations and of governments to engage in public social procurement or in private social procurement, is the fact that 29% of ASEM social enterprises see this as a critical barrier, and particularly the disadvantage that they have in tenders, because they are the disadvantage because social value, social impact, and environmental value is currently not taken into account often in these frameworks. So if we could focus not only in the financing, but also, of course, in the procurement frameworks and models on actually better measuring this aspect of social and environmental value, we can really make a step change. And because the European Commission has been focusing on access to finance and access to markets as two of the main important points as well, and they will continue to do this in the next years, I really see that we have a lot of opportunities there. We collect the data and insights that we can also frame then what can be done in this area. 67% experience that there's actually very low or no support from government across ASEM social enterprises. As you know, Michael, it's like Germany, who has the lowest currently, the perception of your social enterprises. Of course, a perception, but it says something. Portugal is actually the perception is that the government actually political support is quite it's in the right direction. It's really important, this political support, because if you want to change legislation policies, you want to make a big step change. For example, in social procurement and social clauses, you need policymakers, you need the European Commission, you need the national governments. So if SEND or other national organizations can lobby, and if we can make sure that in countries where there's no national body or a weak national body for social entrepreneurs, we can strengthen those ecosystems, you can make that next effort that policymakers actually are getting more understanding of the social enterprise model. They know then what as well are the critical barriers, and we can work together with the social enterprises, of course, and the intermediaries, but also with the government to take those barriers away and see how we can best do that. And use indeed, as Johanna Mair says, and I really love that in our study as well, that we can refer and build off the shoulders on that giants, right? That all the knowledge and the research that has been done before, we can now see how this data fits in, how to interpret, and then from this monitor report, this is just starting point. Now the researchers and the academics can dive in depth and they can do a really thorough analysis of the data, which goes a little bit deeper than what we do at Euclid Network as a European Social Enterprise Monitor report or the national reports. So I think that's really important. The last one, poor understanding and awareness of the social enterprise model. So this study, of course, tries to contribute to it and the work we do, but hopefully as well, the lobby with politicians, if they're more aware, it will also get more into government frameworks in all kinds of different ways.
Yes, absolutely. So we need to look at the European level. We need to look at the national level. Once again, for the audience, please choose your breakout rooms if you haven't done already. Staying on this national level and the question on how we can get the national governments to support social entrepreneurship better. Lina, the Forum for Social Innovation Sweden is working closely together with the Swedish government, as far as I understood it. What are the key findings that you now will get to the politicians? What is your message? And what is probably something that all European countries and support organizations in these countries could lobby for?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we acknowledge the high ambitions and see very many good initiatives in Sweden, yet the monitor tells us it gives it a very scattered view of the perceived political will. I mean, Wieteke, you were referring to that before. And I mean, so there are many differing views in Sweden, but with the social entrepreneurs themselves. So, I mean, I guess our message would be to the government to continue to make long-term and strategic and systematic investments under the framework of the current national strategy. These are not sprints or 1 to 2 year projects that will solve it, but you need the long-term perspective and investments in this to make it succeed. And I guess if you kind of would push it up to the European level, I would really say that the 5 areas of the Swedish framework and national strategy, they're actually pretty good, and I think that they can encompass many needs. So I would encourage people to take a look at those also, how that would apply to their country context. But I would also kind of want to emphasize the value in putting the actual social challenge in focus, rather than specific instruments or groups of actors or like business models that are to solve it, because I think it's really important to strengthen the innovation capacity across sectors and mobilize broad groups of actors. And social enterprises will be one part of that solution, and it will, they play a very critical role, but it's also important that we mobilize broadly and across actors, and that we learn from each other in that. I would really, not only to the politicians, but make a shout out to the European or global researchers to dig deep into this data and find those connecting dots, and let us see the magic of that and how we can learn from each other at a European and global level.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Lina. Johanna, what do you think would be the best steps now, looking at the data, or what you have seen in the data so far, for creating good ecosystems for social entrepreneurship, but also for social innovation in a broader sense, as Lina just put it?
Yeah, I think it really connects nicely to Lina and to Wietteke's point, actually. What this monitor will allow us is to have a systematic and dynamic, almost not necessarily real time, but every year time, so to say, taking stock of the population of organizations, firms, however we call it, and see how they evolve. And I think this is providing us with the data to actually really inform also these newer efforts of how can we talk and speak and act across different European countries. We have already in place these hubs, right, where a number of countries actually join forces. So the data that we have here will allow us to understand each other. It will allow us to develop a shared understanding, and it will also allow us, and I say that very explicitly, to appreciate the diversity also that we have in Europe, and I think should have. Europe is not a level playing field for social entrepreneurship and for many other things, and gladly so, I think. And it will help us to appreciate this diversity. And I'm saying this very explicitly at this point in time because I had the great fortune to be also in the scientific board of the evaluation of 10 years of the social business initiative of the European Union, which was amazing. And the people who did the evaluation did an amazing job. But, it's taking stock 10 years after. Right here, we have a every year type of taking stock and build, and I think that's really the potential that can help, yes, national entities, but also across Europe to really develop this understanding, and then make more informed decision making, and also perhaps, as I mentioned it again, appreciate the diversity that we have.
Matthias, from the scientific perspective, what would you like to add? How can we use the data in the future, and how can all scientists in the field of social entrepreneurship now also use the data of the ESEM?
Okay, in order to use the data, you have to have access to the data, and this was a big discussion, or has been a big discussion in the research board about how we want to handle the data. And I think making it available to researchers will initiate a new wave of social entrepreneurship research in quantitative empirical entrepreneurship research in Europe. I think this is going to be present at many conferences, so I'm very happy about this development. And what I like very much about this data, since it's being not continuously but regularly being captured, we can actually draw some very strong implications. And it's not clear with some barriers that we see, are these barriers in terms of, are they barriers that can be resolved politically? So is this something where we can be dissatisfied with the government, or are these things which we can actually facilitate? We are being approached by a lot of initiatives. We want to promote social entrepreneurship. We don't know how. I'm continuously being approached by young social entrepreneurs who don't know how to actually turn their mission into a venture. So, and there are different best practices that we can observe around the world. But now we actually have data to say, listen, if you really want to pursue this SDG or this combination of SDGs, this is the best approach. So gender equality, what type of venture promotes gender equality in contrast to health issues or educational issues? This is something that we don't really know yet, but the data actually provides insight into this. And so I think in terms of policy implications, sharp educational implications, facilitation implications, and very important, we have to begin communicating this, because I think the more we do with the data, the more response we're going to get in future monitors, because social entrepreneurs actually want to be monitored if they see that something is being done with the data. I think this is going to be a very important issue.
Yes. And as we've seen in Germany, when we redo the monitor, as you also mentioned before, Matthias, we will also see bigger data. And of course, from this accomplishment, we can then see more interesting facts and draw more robust conclusions. With the last couple of words, over to you, Wieteke. What is the future of the European Social Enterprise Monitor? What does it hold in store? Will it get bigger and stronger? And please unmute your microphone.
Thanks, Micha. Yes, that's the aim, right? That is the dream, to make it bigger and get a more inclusive and even more diverse view of social enterprises. Make sure that this endeavor really provides value to society, and make sure that we have the social entrepreneur's voice from the ground to also contribute to where we go in the future, so they really influence and shape the future of the social enterprise ecosystem. So we already have a couple of country partners and research partners who want to join next year. We potentially could go to 20 countries, so the next conversation is just with all our founding partners and sponsors, of course with the research board and all the country partners and research partners, to see how big do we want to make this and how fast. Because as we all know, it's a lot of hard work, and you need to have the resources in place to do that. For the first pilot year, that's always the question, right? We might say we might have been a little bit under-resourced, so we did our best, and we do. But this is the question for the future. We want to scale, but how fast can we scale? Probably every entrepreneur has the same aspect. So yes, without further ado, I would say let's go to the breakout rooms. We close off this official part of it. And the breakout rooms, we have the national country monitors, we have the different ecosystems, and all the players who are involved who are going to speak. So this is going to be very exciting. I'm very excited about it. We probably stay in the breakout rooms. I'll be here for those who want to return out of the breakout rooms after 15 minutes. But if you want to stay longer, stay in the breakout rooms. In the breakout rooms as well, we will post the report for you. So where you can find the report, where you can read it, you will see it in the chat. So please read the report and sign up. If you're a social enterprise and you're here, sign up. If you're a research partner, contact us if you want to become part of this. If you are a national body for social entrepreneurs, or you represent a community of social entrepreneurs in your country, join us. So thanks everyone. And I wish you a lot of excitement and fun and new insights in the breakout rooms. And thanks as well. Misha, to you, the last word to thank the panel.
Thank you everybody. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Lina. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Wieteke. It was a blast, and I'm looking forward to what next year's bring. But now over to the breakout rooms.
Hello, Filipe. How are you from Portugal? Are you in Portugal?
I am indeed, yes. Hello, everyone.
Great. Good to have you all here. Hello, João. Hello, Gloria.
Hello,
Hey, Eugenia. How was your breakout?
It was small, very intimate.
Yeah.
But I think we did our role and kept on time, so everything went fine.
Good, very nice.
Because we assumed that it will only be 15 minutes and we would have to come back at 12:10. So we followed the script, at least the one that we were given.
Yes. Apologies for that. There was a mistake in the agenda made for the timing, so we had to.
What was supposed to be the right timing? What was supposed to be the right
20
timing?
minutes. You would first have 20 minutes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I hope that was okay. Yeah. So I think we're at the end of the session, and I think are all the breakout rooms back to us? Cool. Yes. Well, what was the impression? Filipe, maybe from you indeed, like what do you think around the ESM project and the next steps?
So first, I think it's great when we take some good practices from certain countries and are able to replicate them across Europe. There's certainly the sharing of best practices and experiences in some countries can inspire others in terms of national policies, solutions at work, certifications, innovations. So I think there's also maybe a component which is, in addition to the data, which would be very valuable for comparison, especially over time. Looking at the data over time will give us a lot of insights of how the field is evolving. So it's not only comparing across countries, because the samples may be slightly different depending on the network that we are catering to. But looking at this data over time will be very, very relevant to see the evolution of the social enterprise field, but also adding and maybe sharing some of the best practices and innovations on policies, on procurement practices, and then using that as a kind of also a lobbying and influencing in our own communities. Because what I found is that political support for social enterprise is never guaranteed. At European Union level it is, but at the local, national levels, it depends on the electoral cycle, it depends on the political party, in the ideology, if it's more left or right or center. And so it's always a bit unstable, but we need consistent long-term policies for things to change. And sometimes we don't have that. So getting that broad-based level of support, I think is fundamental for all of us to be able to move forward and really create an ecosystem that is not, I would say, a new sector in the economy necessarily, but it's a new ecosystem that inspires and changes the other sectors and moves the sustainable development agenda forward and the inclusion agenda forward. That's what we aim for.
Yeah, that's really well said, Filipe. That really resonates with me. Thanks for that remark as well, and for the Portuguese report. So I'm going to take a further in-depth look at it, but it's really nice to have those specific country results. And maybe while I actually have you all in the room, there will be a Eurostat meeting in Portugal, actually, next week, hosted by Portugal. I will be speaking there as well. And one of the dreams of Micha and me was as well that we connect the data from the Social Enterprise Monitor at some moment with the statistical community and see what we do there. So maybe to get some advice from you on the combination of data like the Social Enterprise Monitor or the data that national statistical bureaus or even Eurostat would be collecting on social enterprises. And maybe if you have a good best practice of shared projects where statistical data and data is used from like a survey, like the Social Enterprise Monitor by NGOs or intermediaries like ourselves.
Yeah, actually, if I may share, in Portugal we have maybe what I would consider best practice, that we have a subset of the National Institute of Statistics created a subset called social economy, which they track separately with all of the data about employment, economic added value. There's a lot of data about the social economy sector in Portugal and about its size and development. But it's, in a way, it's the traditional social sector. It's all the associations, the cooperatives, the mutual organizations. It does not capture the new area of innovative social enterprises, some of which may be for profit. So it's like the third sector. So we have a lot of information and very reliable over the years. They do this every 4 years. And it's very well done. And there's a report. And it's about 5% of the Portuguese economy overall. So that data we have, the difficulty is distinguishing from that third sector, what is the part which is what we consider the social innovation, social enterprise ecosystem. That's the difficult part, and there are also missing links. But there is certainly some experience and data to be able to build on from that experience. CASES, which is our the other national entity that supports the third sector, is the one developing with the Statistics Institute that report and that data set. But that's very comprehensive.
If you could send this over, Filipe, that would be very, very interesting. And I absolutely hear you that it's so difficult to distinguish between what is social enterprise and what is a more classical welfare organization or similar. So I think that there's still quite a lot of steps ahead of us concerning operationalizing social entrepreneurship. Not to just have a definition, but to actually have a definition that, works in saying this organization is a social enterprise, this organization is probably not a social enterprise, but still kind of being open enough so that nobody feels left out. There's a lot of stuff to be done, but I think it's important to now already get the statistical bureaus rolling, because if they are the actual partners in the countries that can gather a lot of information, and if we get them thinking about this, they will probably get back to us and then kind of push us towards creating a more operationalized definition on the European stage as well. So there's a lot of stuff, but it's going to be very interesting.
Just one additional point very quickly. One thing that we've done in Portugal, because it was difficult to identify the organizations, we focus on the initiatives dedicated to social innovation. So Portugal Social Innovation has a certification process and has certified more than 100 initiatives with very specific systematic criteria. Some of those initiatives can be born inside a traditional welfare organization, but the initiative itself is very innovative, or it can be a new startup, or it can be even a public sector organization that creates a new solution within a municipality, for example. So we have a way to categorize initiatives, not necessarily organizations, because that would require the legal framework and legal form. That's the discussion that we all have. But at least we have a way and a database of all the certified initiatives for social innovation that are then entitled to the funding that's coming for social innovation. So that Portugal Social Innovation and its team, they have a dedicated team of about 15 people, are the ones that are implementing that. And I can also connect you with, you may be connected with Filipe Almeida, who is the current president of the initiative, and he can share his approach to certifying these social innovations.
I think that would be really interesting, Filipe. Yeah, absolutely. If Matthias.
In terms of defining social entrepreneur, I found it interesting in the monitor to actually see what types of businesses consider themselves to be social entrepreneurs. Because we didn't go out and say, we consider you a social entrepreneur, would you please participate in our survey? This was a general call, and the people who voluntarily signed up were the ones who said they consider themselves to be social entrepreneurs. And then if we now look at the distribution, and the German data is very rich, those social business like work integration, social enterprise, we don't have that much in Germany. We know some of the stars, but they're not that many. We have extremely many ventures which we would classify as charities, and we have extremely many businesses which are really businesses and just think they're doing something social or something environmental. We have some which are just environmental, but they think they're social. And in terms of looking at the impact, I think this approach of allowing them to define themselves, and then us as researchers say, okay, this is basically what social entrepreneurship in Germany or in Spain or in Portugal looks like. This is how they define themselves. And of course, if we have the opportunity to measure the impact, we can actually see how good they are at what they're doing. So I've always been reluctant in setting up a definition and saying this is what social entrepreneurship is about. Let the people define themselves, and we basically took those out and said we don't contribute to anything social, so let's throw them out. But we still have a lot left where the typical research literature said, no, that's not what we really consider to be social entrepreneur. We were thinking of something else. But what researchers often think about is not what we see in practice to be the most common types. And I think that this is a very interesting insight. So I'm teaching about work integration, social, how cool these enterprises, how you integrate the target group. And then we look at the data. We don't have that much. And the ones that we see, those are the ones we talk about in our classes. But they're not that common. And maybe they're not that common because they're very difficult.
And it's also a sector thing. There are some countries where there is a sector which is really why is this work integration social enterprise is a well-defined sector. They are certified by the government. They get funding So I studied some of them in my research with Danica Rapash. I studied that sector in France, which is very, very well developed. There's about 2,000 or 3,000 that are perfectly classified. But that's, I would say, a niche a segment. In Portugal, we have nothing of that. We didn't have that sector. And apparently in Germany, we also don't. But in France, it was a very clear sector of the economy.
In Germany, it's actually 850, around 850 to 900 work integrating social enterprises called Integrationsfirmen or Integrationsunternehmen, which are probably the only social enterprises in Germany that are mentioned in the law books. But those are not the ones that consider themselves being social enterprises. And if we look at like innovativeness, if you like, then work integrating social enterprises are not always at the forefront. Some are, but many are not. So,
typically they get very typified public funding, and when you get very typified public funding, you are typified because you do something that is not innovative. It's something that is typified. So the issue when the public funding is more generic and typified is that it pushes everyone for conformity and for doing the same instead of for innovation. So when we did in Portugal, the Portugal Social Innovation, we said, no, we're not funding anything else. We're just funding the innovation part. That's why we want to certify the innovation so that we allocate the funding only for social innovation and not for doing the normal things, because for that, there is funding available from the Ministry of Social Security, etc. So that was our, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, especially measuring social innovation. That's not an easy task. I mean, what is a social innovation? We are talking about this scientifically and also pragmatically, and I think it's very easy to say, well, I don't know, Wikipedia is a social innovation, the internet is a social innovation, but the further you go into it, the deeper you delve into the topic, the more. So I'm very, very, very interested how you did it in Portugal, and would love to also compare it to Switzerland, for instance. They are trying to create a register for social enterprises on the government level. So that's also an interesting approach. And I think this kind of ideas that we are brainstorming in the different countries, I think we should get together more often and actually talk about them, because there's so much going on, and we could learn much more from each other, especially because now that the European Union is pushing the social economy and social entrepreneurship and social innovations even further, they will get back to us and tell us, you know what, yes, of course, we can look differently at the different nation states and regions and so on, but come on, guys, we have to have some stuff that is the same. So common. we should, you know, get together and kind of.
Yes, and you will get together, absolutely, because I'm setting up a meeting for the consortium. I'm just going to send out a doodle, see if we can get everyone together. Also, I think some people already start to go on holidays end of June. I was just thinking, I think currently the meeting to be in the 3rd week of June. So we can also reflect a little bit on, the process so far and start to prepare for our new survey that's going out after mid-September.
Very good. When are you coming to? Are you coming physically to Portugal? It's a remote meeting.
Remote meeting.
A remote meeting. Okay.
Yeah. It's hosted by Portugal, by your government, and by But I'm not traveling
anytime soon. Yeah. Okay. No, but
not yet. I also have a husband who works in the hospital, so I see from close up the effect of it. So I'm courteous to not travel myself, and take a little bit of care so that patients can be helped in the hospital.
No, very good.
Yeah. So yes, I think we could actually stay and talk for hours here. For those of you who actually want,
if you talk about social innovation, we could talk for days about the topic. But let's share ideas afterwards, and I'll connect you with the Portugal Social Innovation team that is on the daily basis dealing with those issues as well.
Yeah, and the idea was initially when we had the consortium that we also would have consortium meetings together, and then we have a day somewhere or 2 days. And this is because of the COVID crisis, of course, not happening. It hasn't happened. We would love, of course, to go to Portugal. I love Portugal. So yes, this is something we just have to see how this transforms in future, right? And if we want to meet up at some moment as well with each other, maybe indeed to talk about the monitor and the next steps that we have, but also potentially have some of these breakouts about things that really matter to us and see across the different countries and the partners involved in this project what we do with it.
Very good.
Good.
Right.
Thanks everyone for your hard preparation, and apologies sometimes for not having all the answers completely professionally sorted and the agendas. It was a little bit busy with launching our European Social Enterprise Monitor report as well. So I hope, that is okay for you.
Thank you, Wieteke. I hope you can get an early night tonight and a good night's sleep and rest. Well deserved.
Yeah,
thank you, Wieteke.
Great
Well done,
hands up for
everyone.
all the team.
Yeah.
All the best.
Yeah, well done.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.